Hi, on today's conversation on the MarTech Memo, we discuss the challenges of AI deployment, client perspectives on AI utilization, and the future of AI in marketing. I hope you enjoy it. Welcome to the MarTech Memo. Today I'm joined by Alyssa Saunders. Alyssa is the Executive Vice President at Marketing Agency Anthologic. Alyssa, please introduce yourself. Share with us a little bit more about Anthologic and your role there.
Hi, Marty. Thanks for having me today. I'm pretty excited to be here and talking about AI and all things marketing. Anthologic is a full-service agency in the Midwest, and we are really focused on that intersection between marketing and technology and how that helps to really solidify those audience and customer connections for long-lasting brand loyalty, pretty much what we're all after in the marketing space. But we believe technology is really the efficiency and powerful tool to accomplish that.
Fantastic. Tell me a little bit more about your role at Anthologic.
Yeah, so in my role as Executive Vice President, I really feel very fortunate. It kind of marries my true passions together of the business operations side. So I oversee IT, finance, accounting, our facilities, kind of all those different things. You know, for those of you in the agency world, it's many, many hats, different days. Sometimes we're talking about plumbing issues, and sometimes, we're talking about projections through 2030. So I love the variety there and kind of the fast pace. But then I also oversee our account service client services team, and that's really those relationships with our clients and trying to figure out how to solve their complex challenges and how we can really be that longstanding partner for them.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for sharing. Today, I would definitely want to talk about AI and marketing. And one of the things that I think that you have at Anthologic taken a very healthy, positive approach to is your view on deploying it in the right ways. Share with me a little bit more about that view when it comes to AI and marketing and the tools versus toys in your philosophy.
Yeah, so early on, we saw a lot of agencies coming out with just very one camp or the other philosophy on we are using AI or we are not, or AI doesn't have a place here, or it's the future. So we really took a moment to try to figure out what that middle ground was. We were all around for the dawn of the internet and how that influenced marketing, and I think we can learn a lot from the parallels there. So our stance is really around the relationship between AI and marketing. There's a place for it. It's absolutely going to make us better in some cases and worse in others. So we have a saying where we take AI and marketing IQ, which is all of our expertise and our experience and what we know about brands and people and the fundamentals of marketing, and we marry that with AI so that we have AI marketing. And we think that that's really going to be the powerful future of marketing, where we're bringing it in the right moments, but we're not overusing it or overdoing it. And I think we've started to see that play out in a lot of ways too.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that that's a really healthy approach, because from a perspective of all the bells and whistles and all these new tools that are, being created out there, how do you make sure that you're deploying the right one in the right way that's going to have the best results? And I think it's a lot of testing and learning. And I think also, to your point, it's going to be a question of where and how it's going to add value versus, just be a distraction, right?
Absolutely.
And so along those lines, how are you deploying AI at Anthologic and where?
So we are using it in a lot of different areas, but I think our first step was to set really clear guidelines and expectations and just say all of the words to our team. So there wasn't any room for middle ground. We've even used the phrase of we're not phoning it in. So if we're hitting the easy button and that's just putting, copy into ChatGPT and saying, make it better, that's not what we want to be doing. We want to be using it as a tool that gets us further faster, but isn't making our jobs necessarily easy, because anybody can do that. So we started with our point of view and making sure that everybody understood that it was something we wanted them to be using, but it wasn't something we wanted them to be using all the time or to do their jobs for them. So there's a very clear point of which you need to make whatever you're creating your own. So we can do things like storyboards in, using AI, whatever their favorite generator is. It all has to go through IT. We're very big on no self-procurement of those softwares too, because there's a lot of rabbit holes around data privacy, what it's learning on modeling after. So we don't let anybody just go get their own tools. It all has to go through our IT department, who always does a deep dive. They always do a deep dive on what goes into the back end, what it's training on, how that aligns with our client agreements. But just being very responsible, I think you'll hear, is the theme of like, there's a moment where it becomes too far into the creative process where it's creating things on your behalf. And that's a stopping point for us. There's a moment where we need to be thinking about what tool we're using and how, and that's a stopping point for us. So just building in those guardrails has really been important.
Yeah. No, I think that is critical to any organization. Certainly from a marketing agency perspective, in the sense that data privacy is hugely important. I think that you struck, the nail right on the head there in terms of one of the biggest concerns about utilizing AI in today's marketplace, right? Is like, where is the data being trained? How much data privacy am I really going to get out of this tool? And is it worth it? Because I think, to your point, right, your clients want to know that when they're sending data over that is proprietary, that it's staying proprietary and it's not out there in different tools. So I think that is a critical step for any organization deploying AI today. And so it's great to hear. And I think that you're taking a really healthy philosophy organizationally in your approach to AI. Where do you see, and along those lines, though, because I'm in your evaluation process, and I think you touched on so many different elements of where it's okay to use it, how far do you want it to go, is really critical, right? And so where do you see like the three biggest challenges when you deploy AI from a marketing perspective?
The biggest challenge is every single human being has a different appetite to be served something that has AI in the creation process. And you can pretty much tell what's had a hand from AI and what hasn't, because, the M dash, it was gone for a long time and now it's back with a vengeance, but it's very much a dead giveaway. So everybody who was using the M dash before ChatGPT, I feel a little bad for, but there's definitely things like that you can tell. And some people are okay with that and some people find that offensive. The other thing we're struggling with is the reasons behind their offense. Some people feel like you didn't even care enough to try to write this email or this copy yourself, or
right.
It's deep as the environmental impacts around it. So I think our biggest thing is understanding just the appetite, even with our teammates. How do they feel about it? It's a wide range, and no two people have the same thought, feeling, or just love of it or hate of it, just the scale. So that's one challenge for us. The second is the pace of change. The world has always changed really fast. I mentioned, the internet coming into marketing, that changed things, but not this quickly.
No, yeah,
so
I agree.
Evaluate, I think a tool that we might be all in on today, next week, there could be a tool doing something better. And you can't pivot that quickly without just getting a little bit of whiplash. So it's knowing when to stay invested in a tool that maybe is falling behind, but I believe it might catch up. And when is it time to move? And there's just so much to pay attention to. So you also just don't really know what to pay attention to anymore.
Well, there's a lot of noise, right? And I touched upon that, I think, a little earlier in our conversation, is that how do you, separate the noise from tools that are really, again, adding value versus just a distraction.
And a new thing that's probably entered just even since the last time you and I talked is it sounds like there'll be ads in free versions of ChatGPT now. And also, thoughts around that in our industry that I'm personally not sure how I feel about it yet.
Yeah. One of the things as an industry that we have to be so careful of is where ads show up into the customer journey, right? And how does that really affect decision making from a consumer standpoint?
Yes, absolutely.
Just out of curiosity, when you're speaking with clients, what have you found as a challenge in getting them either comfortable, or how you're approaching that from a strategic standpoint as it relates to working with them?
We've seen all different types of approaches from our clients. We have some who will be sent a contract that says, you're absolutely not using AI. Please sign here to confirm that. And that is great. But the conversation we always have there is, there might be tools like even Google, there's AI components built in to it. So I'm not sure how much longer we can, and even now, if we can responsibly sign a contract saying we don't use AI. So we're having those conversations. And then we have the other side, and they're like, ChatGPT or name the tool can do this in 3 minutes. Why do I have to wait a week to get it from you guys? And our approach there is usually to go through that exercise with them. It's pretty interesting. What you get in 3 minutes is a little different than what you get in a week. And then we'll always go back through and say, this is how we are using AI tools to get us to a faster, better result. But it's not just as simple as saying, give me this campaign in 3 different audience tones and then having exactly what you asked for.
Yeah, I think managing expectations is critical. From an agency perspective, when you're deploying AI, you want them to know that you don't just take whatever it is that AI is giving you, but that you're actually thoughtful about how you're deploying it. And
Absolutely.
so you've got to like play both sides there, depending on what a client is looking for and what they're comfortable with. Because I think to your point also is that to expect in today's environment, agencies and clients not to be deploying AI when it's embedded in so many different products and tools that you're currently using, I think is a little hard to eliminate from any contractual language.
Yeah. So there's multiple from the operations side to the execution side. It's just a multifaceted decision whether or not you're using it and how you use it.
Yeah. Yeah. And just out of curiosity, do you find that more clients are comfortable with it, or do you find more clients that are contractually more afraid of it?
I think we find fellow marketing professionals to be very interested in and enthusiastic about what AI can do and how it will help. When we talk to their procurement teams or their IT teams, they're not as enthusiastic about it. So I think, fellow marketers will always have some level of curiosity and excitement about the future. That's just
of course, right.
But they do have to get approvals sometimes. So that's where we run into a little bit of that, like, maybe not, and sign this document.
Where do you see AI as it relates to marketing in the next 2 years? You touched on in your previous response that, how fast things are changing, and it's moving so much faster than the advent of the internet, right? In terms of how it affected where consumers are spending time, but also our ability to communicate value and work more efficiently. But, to your point, AI is coming so fast and furious, and it's changing rapidly. Within the next 2 years, you put your thinking hat on in terms of, how you can be a visionary. What would you say is, within the next 2 years?
That is a very crystal ball question, but I think where I see the immediate easy answer for that is 2 years from now, the way that we all do our jobs is going to be so different. I think we had a pretty neat experience here. We work with one of our local universities, and they have an AI program. And we have I think they have 8 kids in the program, and they came and we gave them some projects that we had already completed and asked them to do it. And we're like, surely they can do it better. They are AI experts. They know they can anything from coding to whatever they need to do behind the scenes. But they don't know marketing. So they were increasingly frustrated as the workshop went on that they couldn't replicate something we had done. And we were increasingly frustrated with our inability to get behind the back end. So I think the future of marketing professionals is some blend of being a little bit more technology forward and understanding some of those things, but also continuing to stay on top of the trends that are influencing our industry. So we're going to have to be really good at paying attention and maybe a little bit more comfortable with the technological aspect of it if we want to stay in the game.
For sure. I think that's a really interesting viewpoint that you're able to get with that program. And I think that really just illustrates your point of the fact that there needs to be that human interaction with AI to make sure that it is being deployed properly and you're getting the right feedback and results that you're looking for. It's not just as simple as putting information or a prompt in and getting the results back and just saying, okay, great, we'll just use that.
But I also, Super Bowls last night, I saw a commercial about how it was an office space and anybody could build an app from an office dating app for dogs to, sports nutrition. And they were just doing it click of a button. And I think while that may not be the experience of anyone using that software yet, we know you need good prompts and all of that. Consumers don't. So they will be expecting things. And we've already seen the Amazon effect of I want something and I want it now.
Yeah.
And it used to be 2-day shipping. Now we want it overnight. I think we're going to have a real moment of reckoning with those increased, it doesn't matter B2B or B2C, that expectation of delivering quickly is going to be a table stakes as well, I think.
I think managing expectations of exactly what that looks like and what that means for I want it today versus I want it right.
Absolutely. And I think the plus side of AI is I've seen a lot of really great campaigns lately that they look real, but you know that there's no way this happened in reality. So as a consumer and as a marketer, I get really excited about the content we're going to be consuming, and that part of it is really exciting. The sky is the limit. We can be as creative as we want to be. So I do think there's a lot of upside on both the marketing side and just being a person who consumes things to get excited.
Well, fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us today.